Hey everybody, welcome to the Daycare podcast. Tonight we got a mix up in hosts. So it is me, Mr. Nipples. Everyone else, you want to introduce yourselves? We got McFucker on, and we got Cutter
Yeah,
as well.
how's it going, guys?
Sup, dudes?
So we're supposed to have a guest tonight, but we're having trouble reaching him. So I'm gonna continue trying to contact him while we're all talking here. We just want to go ahead and get started. So I think we're gonna be talking about some Coast Guard until he gets on, or we can contact him. So let's talk about the branch of the DoD, not technically military, that we got on here.
Wait, that's the other way around. Branch of the military, not DOD.
Wait a second.
Yeah, I think you make it.
The branch of something.
Are you confused?
Really?
I'm always fucking confused, man.
Well, he's a Navy reservist. He didn't get too good on the ASVAB, so.
Hey, I'm an IT though. I'll have you know that I scored above a 16.
I scored above a 70.
Fucking nerd.
I scored above
Nerd.
an 80. No, actually, no, I was not a nerd in high school, believe it or not.
No, neither was I.
We all are both nerds at heart, though. So.
No, that's true.
No, actually, no. I'll admit this. When I did the ASVAB in my high school, I'm not gonna say what I was on, but I definitely was not in the right state of mind doing the ASVAB.
Wrong.
And I still scored like a 94. It was like a 94. That's what I scored from.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and
So-
my dumb ass chose the Army after everything else, so common sense was not with me during that test and recruiting sessions.
I'm glad I waited till I was 23 to join. Because I would have done something stupid like the Marine Corps or the Army.
Hey now. That was quite more crazy.
So we're live, right? Cool. So, well, I guess McFucker here wanted an update on my guy from you guys mentioned last week. He was pretty shook up after the body recovery we did. So we have what's called PTSD Training, and it's basically it's not really training, but it's like a group counseling session basically that they do after any sort of traumatic incident. And if you've been through it once or twice, they'll, hey, do you guys want this? Nah, we're good. We're all golden. All right, cool. But if it's anybody's first time, it's mandatory. So they send somebody down from either a neighboring unit, somebody that's been through the training as the PTSD counselor, or somebody from sector. And so they came out, did their thing, and if one person gets it, everybody gets it. So we all sit around and, how do we feel about the situation, And like I said, I guess, was it Nick that brought it up last week on the podcast? Yeah, he was pretty shook up the night that it went down, and he didn't sleep at all that night. Actually came in and woke me up at like 4 o'clock in the morning. But after that training and spending some time outside of work, hanging out, he's doing pretty good now. So it's not. It wasn't really so much like a. I guess it was like a short-term, quick onset type of, PTSD. I don't imagine it'll stick with him, but I guess you never know.
I think it's
That's good
something
to
it's really definitely to keep checking in on, just because
Yeah.
everyone handles things differently. That's why I asked you. What I asked you was because I remember we talked about it.
Yeah.
It was good to talk about last week's episode as well as kind of off air. But that was the very first thing I wanted to ask and make sure that your guy's taken care of and he's solid.
Yeah. And I'm actually, because I'm the way my station is set up, there's 2 duty sections and we rotate 48-hour shifts. and I'm the section leader, so I'm like the senior most guy in my duty section. So, after your normal business hours, command's not there. I'm in charge, and so they're gonna. I'm actually gonna be putting in to go to SISM training myself to be the counselor, advocate, whatever you want to call it. So, but
Good shit, man. Good shit.
I mean, I can tell you, like, my first experience with a body recovery was a kid, and
That's
I had
rough.
just yeah, and I had just had my first kid. My daughter was like 7 or 8 months, um, and
Oh, man.
it messed me up for a while, and we got back and like it was over a weekend, and you know, the second time you do it, it's like you're serious about it. You don't freak out. The third time, you're making jokes about it. So uh, that's how you handle it. You make jokes. So, but
Yeah, I remember when
Yeah, I mean everyone copes
I was
differently.
on the volunteer fire department, and we had to do something similar to that for a 78-year-old male with Alzheimer's. He just walked out of his home and went missing, and they ended up finding him in a lake. And me after just got out of the military, that's what I went and did to kind of help continue to serve my community, a little bit since the farm was right down the road from my house. And they had people come in for about a week, um, kind of deal with that. So, um, that was
and it's a
the
lot
kind of
easier.
that kind of help other people.
It's a lot easier when you're old enough that you can just go out and have a couple of beers and forget about it. But this poor kid's 19 years old,
Yeah,
so. But
I'll be dead honest. If it was me, away from duty, obviously, I would have bought him a beer and like, here you go. You know,
well, yeah. Unfortunately, being the section leader and direct representative of command, I'm not at liberty to do that. I can neither confirm or deny that maybe somebody might have done that, but if it did, I don't know about it.
yeah.
But yeah. So yeah, right.
Never heard of the beer.
So what do you want me to cover in our impromptu special episode of Coast Guard?
What
Whatever.
I mean, talk
what
about what
is
you do. What was basic training like? Honestly, what was the basic training like for going into Coast Guard?
Basic training was legitimately like
Half,
no
half
joke.
what the military?
So they base our um, they are without the going out in the field and doing like land nav and hiking through the woods for 3 days. They base our boot camp off of the Marine Corps' uh, ideas. So it's very you know it's very physical. It's very what do you say, classroom driven as well. So you're sitting there screaming at the top of your lungs, required knowledge, which is everything from the general orders to ranks and that crap to you know boat boat lingo and God knows what else I've forgotten in the last 7 years. But you're sitting there screaming that at the top of your lungs at 4 o'clock in the morning doing push-ups and shit. So um, I can't remember what the thing was, but they did I think it was Stars and Stripes did an article several years ago, and they ranked the boot camps on how hard they are, and they put us second behind the Marine Corps. So, but it's also only 8 weeks. So,
I honestly thought Navy boot camp was a little bit too easy. Like
I
it
mean,
was.
Well, I forgot you were in the Navy. I forgot about that.
Yeah,
I'm the only Army guy who
it,
came
it
that's
it also
experience.
depends on how many recruits you have in a company. So like we only had 38 in our company, and you couldn't hide. You know, that there was no getting away with anything. We had 3 company commanders and 38 of us.
See, we had
You
like
know,
we had like
so
40 or so, I think, in each, and it's like they train 2 divisions together essentially. Well, at least
yeah,
we were a mixed unit, so it was male and female. So like we
yeah, so
had
was ours.
they would mix us. Oh dang, you still only had 30. That's insane. We had like basically 40 of each, I think, or something around there, and
Yeah.
we basically just crossed the halls to do stuff. So they'd split the males in half and then the females in half and then mix, and then that
Well,
was like the whole thing.
you gotta figure there's only like 42,000 people in the Coast
Oh,
Guard.
yeah, you guys are a pretty small branch. I think you guys are the
But
smallest, actually.
yeah, oh, by far, yeah.
Yeah.
One thing that I
So
that I
now,
always
are you
what
counting like the reserves, National Guard as well, or just
what
like the main branches? What Nipples is saying, being the smallest branch. Are you guys counting reserves and National
I
Guard as well, or are you
think that
going just
I
strictly
think that
Army,
only
Navy,
count I
Marine?
think that only counts active duty. That doesn't count our reserves, and we don't have any like Coast Guard version of National Guard. So I think that number it counts active duty, uh, and then the reserves. I have no idea, but they don't really do anything anyway.
All
But
right.
as far as like knowledge I would like to spread about the Coast Guard, people always ask me like, uh, joining the Coast Guard, what makes joining the Coast Guard better than one of the other branches? When you guys went to the recruiter,
Yeah.
you guys took your ASFAB, and your recruiter sat down and told you what jobs you were eligible for, and y'all picked your jobs right there, right?
We got Jeremiah in here.
Oh, sweet.
There we go.
Holy
Finally,
crap.
yeah. How you doing, bud?
Pretty good. How are y'all tonight?
Pretty good.
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 Trying
Glad
to
we
stay
finally
sober
got a-
for the UFC fight.
Oh yeah, we're me and my buds were watching that as well. We got our drinking out of the way last night though, so we pre-gamed a whole day ahead. It was a good plan.
Yeah,
Jesus.
Yeah.
it's a whole different level of drinking.
Oh yeah. You gotta plan in advance. You know, it's advanced drinking. This is Navy drinking we're talking about.
Oh, that's not real
Oh,
drinking.
please.
We-
They might have started yesterday, but they're drinking wine coolers, so.
Nah,
Michelob Ultra.
we got some new Icelandic.
Ultra.
We got some Icelandic vodka, and it was really good. We killed pretty much the whole bottle.
I thought he was gonna say some Icelandic Mick Ultra.
Yes, that's. I don't know. Might as well be. One of the boys had freaking IPA.
Ugh, I'm in the land of IPA out here in California. It's not that great.
It's so gross.
Tastes like pineapples or grapefruit. Sorry.
I think it tastes how weed smells.
Ew.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, I can
exactly.
see that.
That's
Yeah.
the only way I can describe it.
No thanks.
All right, Jeremiah. So I hear you have some stories for us.
Yeah. The funny one that how I found out about the Daycare podcast. I guess I'm saving that one for a later date. Where I sat on a knife.
I'm interested to see how that leads to the Daycare
I-
podcast, but I mean, it may be the same experience, but
It was through. I posted it through like Drinking Bro. That podcast or that Facebook group or Band of Bravos. I posted it, and a couple of people were like amazed about the story of me sitting on my own knife in Iraq. But no,
Wait, hold on real quick. That's you?
yeah, that's me.
I've heard about this story through a couple other pages. I think it was Uncle Sam's Misguided Children and Dysfunctional Veterans. I think
hey,
mentioned something about
you're
it.
famous for sitting on a knife.
Yeah, it was a fun, interesting, few couple of months over there. Like I couldn't eat with a knife for the first month, and then after that, I had to ask the ranking individual at the table if I could use my plastic knife, and if he said no, then I had to caveman it normally. And then a one-star general, he got word of it, and he started seeking me out just to sit at the table and say
Oh
no.
my god.
And
That's
then
so rough.
No.
yeah, before it ended up being General Allen, think his name was Alan, the 4-star for the 18th Airborne Corps. He heard about it, and
Oh man,
yeah, it made its way up through the palace. It was actually pretty crazy.
that is actually
But
hilarious.
but
Yeah.
no, this one about suicide is what I was thinking tonight was going to be. It's what I mentally prepared myself to talk about tonight.
Yeah, we can. We're definitely gonna cover that tonight. We were pre-gaming the show a little bit while we were getting in
Oh, okay.
contact with you. So
Okay.
we're already live and everything.
Okay.
We have
Yeah.
warmed up. So if whenever you wanna start on that, just go for it.
No, I'm however you guys, but it's more of so my dad he committed suicide in November of 2002
Mhm.
on my voicemail. Um,
Mm.
Inadvertently, he called. I was the last person he called, um, and I didn't answer the phone because I was in the Air Force at the time. I was taking my CDCs, and I don't even know what that means anymore because that's how much I care about the Air Force right now. But career development course. I'm jovial about it for the most part. But so studying for that, and my dad used to just call me for stupidity. Like he would just call to talk because that's what dads do. It's what I'm doing to my son now.
Yeah.
So, and I didn't think it was anything important, so I didn't answer. And he called back a second time, and within like a minute, and that's led to a fear of mine. If I miss more than like one phone call from my mom, if she calls a second time, no matter what I'm doing, I have to answer. But I just muted him the second time because I didn't think it was important. And then the next day I woke up, phone was still on silent. This is pre-iPhone, it's '02. Um, I take my test. I come out of my test. I go to my shop, go out. I was a generator mechanic. I go out and I work, and then I get called over the radio. They don't even give my call sign. They just say personnel Hedgecock, my last name, and over the radio, which is very rare. So I knew something was up, and I thought I'd bombed my test that bad that they were already calling me in. And I pulled out my cell phone, and I had 83 missed phone calls and 137 texts. And this is the beginning of texting, kind of. So, and I didn't have time to go through it. So I get back, and they tell me, and I didn't even think about it. Like, he left me a voicemail. So I listened to it, and it was a 3-minute voicemail of him. And the first minute and a half, he's telling me like how much he loves me, how much he loves my brother, how much he loves my mom, even though they've been divorced. And the first time I listened to it, I was in shock. So when he did it, and then they had just told me he died, so I didn't listen to the whole message. So I never. And then it was a few days later. I'm 19 years old, planning my dad's funeral. Everything, like, and I'm mad at him kind of at the same time. That's actually part of why I'm tonight. And so I'm mad at him because like he did this. It's just like of all the things, like I was upset. I feel horrible about it now. And then I went back and I listened to it, and he tried to hang up the phone, but his fingers were shaking so much that he just hit like the number 2, and then he did it. And then there's 3 minutes of silence, and then I hear the police kick in the door, and then I hear the codes, I hear the description of it, and the whole time in that like 3 minutes, I say silence, I can hear my dad dying. I hear, and I know this isn't normal, like what you probably guys were probably expecting tonight. So I hear him like going through everything, and later in life I would hear that in Iraq, like the death rattle, everything else, I would hear that. And so after that I went back and I listened to it a few times, and I could hear him going through his final moments, him unlocking the door, him making sure that his letter was legible, him I can't. There's one song that if anybody ever plays, I will leave, and it's "Shares If I Could Turn Back Time," because that's what he died to. That was his one song, and so at the time, I was mad at him for years. I was upset with him because I couldn't believe, like, how can you get to that point? And then I lost friends in Iraq. I lost friends in Afghanistan, and then my divorce, and I was there, like. Now I see, like, this is how easy it is to get to that point. and there isn't like a on your mark, get ready. There is no start line. Like it's just all of a sudden you're at a cliff, and it just seems like going over is a whole lot easier than turning around and facing whatever is behind you. And when I was going through my divorce and I was at that point, and my commander, Colonel David Mann, I'll say his full name. I don't care. He'll be proud to know he's recognized for something else. He told me, he goes, I was on the phone. I was on the train tracks with him. And he said, you can't kill yourself because not only will another man have stolen your wife, but another man will raise your son. And I haven't gone back since. Like, I'll honest to God, like that is probably, he knew my character, and but he also had the police department for my locality. He had them on the phone without giving any information at that time, just prepared in case. But his words saying that, and the amount of I'll say love that he had to have for me at that time to be willing to say the one thing that he knew that would bring me back and not bring me away from that edge. And I haven't ever gone back, and I'll always be indebted to that man. I feel like he's my Han Solo and I'm his Chewbacca. I owe him a life debt for the rest of my life. But I learned that there is, like, I knew my dad, to go back into him, he found his dad committed suicide. So my grandfather committed suicide, my dad committed suicide, and my brother and I, we have to end this. I'm going to have to say it's a fucked up family tradition, and I'm sorry if y'all have to bleep it.
Oh no, cursing's fine.
Okay, it's a fucked up family tradition that there is, so it's so easy to fall into when you're facing adversity. And as someone put it, like, it's the thought of living is more painful than the thought of dying. And I'm glad I was able to come back from it. I've found out a lot about myself from it, but looking back, I think about my dad and, like, seeing through his life, like, what he let take over him and his being, and, like, a lot of that defined him were these bad moments. And so since then, I've tried to have these great moments that have defined me, and it's hard. And there's still, like, every guy, no matter who, everyone, even suicide survivors, people who went through with it, but they survived it, or people like me who didn't attempt it, but they were on the brim. Like, I've talked to some, and it's hard. Like, we all trip a little bit every now and then. But for me, it's been focusing on my son, focusing on bettering my career. Like, now I'm at a friend of mine, I'm at his house tonight. Like, he's a doctor, and I'm making more than him as just an electrician, just quote unquote, just an electrician. And, like, I've turned it around, but I know that there are moments that I'm going to fall. Like, and I know that there are issues that I'm going to face in life. Like, I'm terrified of being in a relationship right now just because my ex-wife gutted me, and I feel like there's never going to be another, like, the only person I feel in my life right now that would even be able to stitch that back together is my son right now. I do have trauma from a lot of things, but I stopped letting that be this. And, like, don't get me wrong, like, if someone out there that listens thinks I'm being crude, like, I try to not make those traumas that were horrific be defined. Yeah, like, I don't want to be defined by the guy who, like, my dad, he let his time overseas, he let finding his dad be the defining factor in his life. Like, I can't let literally like a 5-minute 10-minute phone call, voicemail, or whatever, or anything like that, be a defining factor for the rest of my life. Like, I don't want my son to look back and remember what I remember about my dad. Like, I don't want to be defined by small little things like that. And it's hard, like, in every day. Like, I'm learning it every day. There's struggle. And I'm glad that, like, podcasts, like Daycare podcasts and other podcasts, they're taking that stigma, especially for men, to be able to talk about it.
Yeah,
Because I
that's
think,
one of our big things is we want people to get on here and vent and be able to say what they need to say to get to the place they want to be at, and make sure other people hear it so they can also be open to go talk to someone. Like, that's
yeah,
the whole thing. We want to get people talking about this, so it's like this doesn't happen anymore.
yeah, and it's not even, and the bad part, and this is partially where I went with mine when I got to a bad point. I reached out to some of my guy friends, because my ex-wife, and she's still a little upset with me. I reached out to some of some of her friends who were upset with what had gone on during the divorce. They were also my friends, but they were her friends as well, and she got upset with me. But I reached out to my guy friends, not even about suicide, just reaching out about a divorce. And I got you should drink more. You should go find a random hookup. Have you tried Military One Source? And how about them Red Sox? Like, those are legitimately the answers I got. Like, I got no support, and nothing against my friends. It's not their fault.
I can
Like,
totally relate to that.
Yeah,
okay,
I
I'm
mean,
glad I'm not the only one.
it's just part of the stigma, and that's something we're trying to help get rid of as well. Like, mental health is a serious issue in this country right now. Like, I think that's one of the big things with all these shootings and all this shit going on. I honestly think it's a lot of mental health issues, and it's so stigmatized in this country for some reason.
Oh yeah,
There's no way to talk about it.
like it's as much as we've made fun of Russia, and I'm only saying this because I just finished watching Chernobyl, and for somebody who works at a power plant, that's actually scary. But as much as we made fun of Russia for being emotional or for lacking zero emotion, for it's so true for us too. Like, we just put a different bow on it. We stigmatize it, like oh, you're depressed, oh well, just go run, or just be happy, just smile.
Yeah, it's like we talk about emotions in this country, but it's like we don't address the negative emotions, which is the big issue.
No, and we don't. And I do remember, the worst day of my life, was at one of my friends, his rehearsal dinner for his wedding. My ex-wife and I were in the wedding together. And I mean, her and I have a great relationship now, amicable for divorce, for co-parenting and everything, of course. But I just remember, like, saying, like, you got to smile or people are going to think something's weird, because if you're not smiling, you're weird. And I didn't want to. I remember thinking, like, putting a timer on my phone to beep every, like, 2 minutes to remind me to smile, because
That's
I didn't want
pretty
to.
rough.
I didn't want to bring down the wedding rehearsal. I didn't want to be that person that ruined the wedding. And the stigma is gone. Gone. The stigma is strong. I mean, there is, like, you can't, like, and through mine, like, they're still friends, and I don't know who said that they could relate to that, but I'm sure you did too. Like you have friends who had no idea, even though you were right beside them every day.
Yeah.
It's because you don't want to talk about it, because you don't want to be that guy.
And for me, so we had just transferred to a new unit. And so I literally I did not know any of these people. We'd been there maybe 4 weeks, and I came home from work, and there's a truck, U-Haul truck sitting in the driveway, and her mom's here, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And she's like, I'm leaving, and you've got till tomorrow to spend time with the kids. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me?
Fuck.
Yeah. So, she was planning. I had to go back to work like 2 days later, and she was planning on leaving one of the days that I was gone. And I called my boss and was like, "Hey, I know I just got here and everything, and you guys don't really let people take leave until they get qualified, but I was like, I have to take this next duty period off." And I told him what was going on, and he goes, "Dude, whatever you need, just." And he lived 2 houses down from me, so
Wow.
he told me, do what I needed, and that was it. She was,
For supportive commands like that are such a good fucking thing. But
yeah,
like a lot of them won't do that. Like supportive commands mean the whole fucking world, to be quite honest.
But the shitty
yeah,
thing is, those supportive commands, they PCS, and then you have some demon who wants to come in and ruin everything
yeah.
that last guy
Yeah,
built.
I
But
don't know what's up with some
so
officers like that.
I had nobody there, and luckily, was able to kind of build some friendships. But at the same time, it was like I didn't want to drown all these people with hi,
Yeah.
I just met you. Here's all my problems, you
Yeah.
know. And
And
my friends back home, me and my ex, we went to high school together, and so all of my friends from high school, were friends with her and knew her, and she was moving home, and so even my best friend, was like, are you gonna be mad at me if I hang out? And I'm like, I guess not.
yeah, it's like,
And
what the fuck
so
am I supposed to say?
yeah, well, because I mean, if I would have,
Oh, did we lose the call? Hello? Hello?
said, yeah, I'm gonna be
Oh,
pissed, I mean, there's still a very tight, because then he has to isolate himself from that group. But then when I go home
Yeah.
on leave, I went home, and this was July. I went home in November, and when I went home, I hit everybody up like, "Hey, I'm home. Let's go out. Let's go do stuff." And they're just like crickets.
Yeah, it's the opposite of what you expected. Like,
Yeah,
instead of them
yeah.
isolating from the group, you got isolated from the
I
group
got
because you're not there.
isolated. Yeah, I got isolated because I'm the one that doesn't live in Oklahoma anymore.
Like,
So
no offense, I don't know your ex or anything, but I'm sure like it wasn't the most cordial about what happened.
well,
And I mean, I'm not saying between you and her, but I mean what she had relayed to the people in Oklahoma.
oh, I'm sure. I'm sure she's said all kinds of things, and Jake at least had the courtesy to tell me that, hey man, just so you know, like, she's been running around with so and so. And I was like, that fucking piece of shit.
Yeah, like my ex was, everybody says I should hate my ex, because of the cheating and everything and like that. But like I realized through, oddly enough, the friends I'm here now, like she's a marriage and family therapist, like, and I'm gonna get a lot of guff for this, but and I'll say another story. By the way, I will say a story and then bounce off and go to like 9 other sub stories. But there are people who are gonna cheat just to cheat, like the opportunistic cheater, like, oh, I'm going TDY to go to ALC. They're gonna hook up, and then there's the ones who are unhappy in their marriage and they usually have like a relationship. And that's what my ex-wife had done. She had developed a relationship with work, and she was with the guy for 4 months before I found out. She brought him to our house and things like that while I was TDY. And everybody says I should hate her. Like, her and I shouldn't have a relationship that we do, and I don't see the point of it now. Like, in the midst of it, like, I probably should have. But for my son, like, there is no, like, and for myself, like that poison that's inside, that you just get from a disdain. But I could not imagine, man, like coming home and to an empty house or a packed up house and like did 2 days with the kids. Like,
Yeah.
dude, like I'm glad. I mean, I have to give props. I don't know what unit you were in at that time, but like any command that allows you to that not allows that lets you go home and figure this out less than a month after being there, then
Yeah.
that's a great command, and I hope that guy, whoever your commander is, I hope he gets a star on his shoulder someday.
Well, I'll give you this. It's an enlisted command, so
Oh,
we're the only weirdos in the world that allow enlisted command. So
What unit is that?
Honestly, wish more did that.
Coast Guard.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah, see,
Small boat station. He was a senior chief in charge. So
see that's awesome.
No wonder the command was so good. Senior chiefs are the shit, dude.
That's like the upper echelon of
yeah.
But
And
yeah,
it was actually the BM1 that gave me the go ahead. But yeah, you know, I look back on it, and you know, we hadn't been happy for a while, and you know, it was. I mean, even you know, I think our second child was probably, looking back on it, was honestly an attempt for us to try to fix things, and you know, I don't regret that. I love my son, but you know,
I love. So first, yeah, that's one. Personal responsibility is one thing that like I had to face. Like, not that I hadn't done that in life before, but realizing that like this isn't all her doing. Like,
yeah,
but the secondary, like the me being suicidal, and I remember and I call my mom almost 3 times a week, and I sound like a mama's boy, but she's in Virginia, and my brother and I are out here in Sacramento area.
I'm sorry.
It is what like I love it for the pay, and like my hometown is horrible, but I remember telling my mom, and I look back thinking how horrible I was, and I remember telling her like, and this is, but yet again, this is like there is no other emotion except for looking forward to not having emotion, and I remember telling her like, if something happens to me, it's her fault. It's my ex's fault. I remember telling that to my mom, and because at the time I didn't even think about it, like what that does to my mom.
Yeah.
Like telling that to my mom, like I didn't even think about what saying that to my mom would
Yeah, and
do to
she's
her.
all the way on the other side of the United States and cannot, you know, I can only, you know, being a dad, I can, you know, relate, but a mother's, you know, emotional connection
level,
is
yeah.
not being able to just, you know, drive across town and just grab you and hug you, you know, in that moment. You know, I was lucky enough, I transferred about 4 hours away from where I had previously been stationed. So, you know, I could take a weekend and go hang out with the guys from my last unit, or they'd come down because I lived on the beach in North Carolina. But, you know, one night I had told them, I had a couple of the guys from my previous unit had come down, and I told them, you know, and we were drinking, but, you know, I was really drunk, and I told him, you know, one of these nights I'm just going to get really drunk, and I'm going to go down to the beach at like 3 o'clock in the morning and just swim and just see how far out I can get and say fuck it. And they were like, no, you know, and you know, they didn't go the, you know, the command approved route of, you know, calling fucking medical and dealing with all of that bullshit and having me put under, you know, fucking suicide watch and shit. But they, you know, they took the bottle away, and you know, we still had you know, it didn't ruin the night. We didn't sit there and fucking have an intervention right then and there. But, you know, the next day, you know, we talked about it, and they literally took turns for like the next 2 weeks calling me every single day.
Yeah.
And they didn't ask about what was bringing me down. They asked about, you know, how I was liking this, how I was liking that. Man, it must be fucking great living on the beach. Because I literally lived like on the beach. You know, I had the Cape Hatteras lighthouse out my bedroom window. You know, it was an amazing place. But
hurricanes rolling up.
Yeah. Well, Florence was another story.
But I can kind of relate to that. I'm on another page. It's American Families Got Your Six.
Yeah.
And it's been no surprise, for people who actually know me, I've been suffering from depression for the last couple of years, and you know, my story kind of hits me in a sweet spot because I moved to North Carolina to work at NASCAR for Rob Shates Racing.
Yeah.
I was an engine builder there for a while, and then my health kind of took a tank, so I worked at a different job where it was a little easier for me over at Goodyear Racing, basically mounting all the tires for NASCAR. Being out in Mooresville, Charlotte area, that's all there is out there is NASCAR jobs.
Yeah.
A buddy
I
of
grew up in
mine,
Martinsville,
called
so
a buddy of mine called me on my cell phone in the middle of a job interview for Goodyear, and calling me again, kept calling me, kept calling me, and I sat there and finally, I asked the person who's interviewing, can you give me a second? I served with this guy, and spoke to him. Was like, yeah, I'm okay. I just really needed to talk to. I was like, I asked him, like, can you give me like 5 minutes? I'm in the middle of a job interview, and long story short, I wasn't given that 5 minutes. Next phone call I got was from his wife telling him what had happened. And so for me, veteran suicide for me it's a big thing, and suicide prevention in general is a big sore spot for me. I ended up having to fly out. I don't know kind of where you're at right now out in Sacramento, um, which was an awful flight going from East Coast to West Coast,
yeah.
For the funeral. And there was a couple times while I was in the military station at Fort Carson where my pop was in Korea and he always told me it takes a real man to ask for help. And
Yeah.
for me, he told me that shortly before his passing. There's a couple times where I'll even openly admit this now on air. It doesn't bother me one bit. I went and seek help. I admitted myself, twice.
I mean,
To seek help, and
Yep.
I mean that's even harder to do than it is to go through with. I mean, it's
Well,
gonna
it was
sound horrible.
extremely hard because I didn't know how to tell my chain of command. I didn't know how to tell my family until it was too late. I was going to behavioral health every week, and it finally got to the point where I was like, I don't know what else to do. This isn't working. And I remember talking to a buddy of mine about it. I went to his barrack and was talking about it. What do I do? Because there was a lot of in my unit there was a lot of stuff that was no bueno by any stretch of means, and so finally I remember going the next day, and I was thinking about it, and I was thinking, when everyone's going to PT, that's when was going to happen, and I remember walking in and just straight ACUs, skip PT, and went straight to my squad leader. And it was like I handed him, basically all the knives I had. I was like, "Here, take them. I need to go get help." I was the first person in my chain of command I even told, and if you asked how long I've been thinking about this, I told him it was a good while. It was a good couple weeks where I sat there. I was real low. I wasn't talking to family. I wasn't talking to friends. I was hardly talking to anyone in my company. And so for me, suicide prevention in general to me it's something I'm really looking strongly towards helping, trying to find help for it, and to get with the Americans Got Your Six, kind of like how you were saying, Cutter. They're doing a thing now where they put you up with a bad buddy system where you check in every day. They message you or they shoot you a text or call you, just make sure you're solid. And make sure that you're good to go. You have someone you can talk to and not feel like you're
A bird.
I want to try to find the right words here. I feel like you're being judged, I guess, is the simplest way to say it.
Well, and I can, I mean, I've got another sea story to relate to that. Even we had a guy when I was stationed in Virginia. He called command at 3:00 in the morning and said, "I need you to." He called the chief and said, "Hey, chief, I need you to come to my house right now and take all of my guns." And I lived down the street from him. Chief lived probably 45 minutes away. And Chief called me, and he knew that I was friends with the guy. He said, "Hey, I need you to go over to SK2's house and check on him." And I'm like, "Wait, what? It's 3 o'clock in the morning. What the fuck's going on?" He said, "Just go over there. I'll be there. I'll be there as soon as I can get there." And I went over there, and we hung out. We were the two guys at the station that played guitar, so we were always hanging out together. I left my amps and guitars over at his house because it was easier than dragging them back and forth. But I went over there, and he's sitting there drinking a beer, and I'm like, I just walked in, grabbed a beer, and sat down. Was like, "What's up, dude?" And he goes, "I'm fucking done with this shit." You
Yeah.
know? And I mean, I had my little bout when I was in North Carolina after my ex left, but I'm like not depressed. I'm the opposite. I've never gone through this shit, and I feel for anybody that has. Uh, my dad is severely depressed. Has had several suicide attempts, and I luckily have my mother's side of the family's genes on that. But I at that point in time, I couldn't understand why anything could be so bad.
Until you're there.
And until I was there, 2 years later, and after I had my thing, I called him and talked to him about it. It was a couple of days afterwards, but because our situations were similar. His girlfriend left him. His fiance left him. He found out he was getting discharged for medical, which was completely bullshit because it doesn't affect his ability to do his job. But he literally, in the matter of like 3 weeks, lost
Everything.
everything. Lost his fiance, lost his job, lost his dad had I think it was his dad had died a couple of months prior, and he was just done. And they sent him down to Portsmouth, Naval Medical, and put him through the whole ringer there. And I remember I went down to see him, and I took 2 guitars with me because I'm like, Thompson loves playing guitars. We're gonna go play guitar, and they wouldn't let me in.
Oh man.
They're like, "You can't go in there with that." I'm like, "Why?" And they're like, "The guitar strings." I'm like, "You fucking kidding me?"
Yeah, I had so my commander, well, he's my former commander. We were together in Iraq. I was in a different unit it was PSYOP, so I was able to interact with the hires and everything. But Colonel Mann, his wife, and I don't know if y'all have ever heard of Sailor Jerry. She's all over in social media. But Sailor Jerry, they were Girls for Gunslingers. So they were on Girls for Gunslingers together. And it was kind of like that whole battle buddy system. Like I got put, like they were multiple people from this Girls for Gunslingers, and it was just because my commander's wife, she was one of the founders of that, and so they knew that something bad was happening, and so I got put with them. Like they were calling me, and by the way, that was a huge boost for my confidence. But at the same time, like it's not like I'm getting a phone call like every few days, random text message or Facebook message, just to make like twice a day, just to make sure I'm alive, just to make sure that I'm eating, make sure that I'm waking up. And I was in a unit, I was a civilian for the Air Force, but I was TDY like 75% of the year, and that's part of what led to the divorce and everything. But I was in a class, and I just remember it's already one of the most boring classes you'll ever go to. It's a safety class, so of course it's pertinent, but it's boring. And I just remember as a civilian, I just went and I told my boss, I pulled it. It was in a civilian and enlisted unit, so I pulled the NCOSC, and my boss. I pulled them both aside and I says, "Hey, I need help. Like, there is no other way to word this. I need help, and I need help now." Like, I thought about the night before, and this is horrible of me. I just thought about killing myself so that my ex-wife would find me. Just to put her, because I was in so much pain. I wanted her to feel something of what I had been feeling. And when I went to work that next day, I was like, no, I need help. Like, this can't happen. And then, so I went for help. And then Colonel Mann talked to me. And then I haven't gone anywhere near that level of thoughts ever since. I see that there is help. The stigma that we are all trying to fight it's not there anymore. Like, I can't ask for help. Like, it's harder to ask for help sometimes than it is to go through the actual actions of suicide, I believe. Like, people still believe, like, a 19-year-old today thinks that it would be easier to kill himself than it would be to ask for help. Like, that's where we still are in society these days. But I went and I asked for help, and the chaplain, Chaplain Bellows here at Travis Air Force Base, he took the time to talk to me and to ask me what was going on and to get down to it. And then he referred me to, I don't even know what the military, life skills, I think is what the military calls it now. He referred me to some life skills people who would refer me to some off-base things. And that's when I discovered for people who are federal employees, you get up to 10 counseling sessions, I think, for free. And I didn't want to go. Like, I didn't want to be that person. I didn't want to miss work. I didn't want to, like, go. I was supposed to go TDY to Okinawa and Alaska, and then Korea back to back to back. And I didn't want somebody else to have to pick up that slack to go TDY for me. And then my Colonel Mann, when I was on the tracks, when he said that, I still had issues to look at, but I didn't have to worry about suicide anymore. I learned a lot about myself. I'm trying to think of the word, the depression I have. It's like a load. It's like I don't want to downplay what it is. Misthemic, I think, is what it's called. It's like a light. Like, I'm downplaying it, but it's a light depression. It's just always there. And the biggest advocate for it right now, because no one really knows about it, is it's the guy that played the Hulk in all the Avenger movies. He's a huge proponent. It's just that feeling of you're just depressed, but you don't know what. And it's not like there's medication for it and there's things, but just the ability, like things like Daycare podcast and just riding my bike for like an hour a day is enough for me to not be depressed. But until you face it, you just think it's this uphill battle that you're never going to overcome. And then you suddenly realize, like, there is hope. There is something down there. There isn't a need to end it all. Like as my mom put it to me later, is how much do you how much do you have to owe somebody to give your life because of them? Like, what did they do to deserve your life, is how she put it. And it was about my ex, and she wasn't being mad about it. She was just putting it in perspective for me. That's it is hard.
Pretty good perspective to have, actually.
Yeah, I mean, it is hard. It is hard. Like, you're like, how much do you, quote unquote, like, what did they do to deserve your life? Like, they hurt you. Why give them that?
Not to downplay it, but how much is, I mean, and I'm gonna say this, and I'm not downplaying, but how much is your life really worth playing essentially this prank on her, you know?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, no, it's not downplaying it. That's what it was. Like, it was me being that was me being selfish. What I was mad at my dad. Like, if I was 20 years old when my dad did it, or 19. Yeah. Like, my son would have never remembered me. And that's what gutted me the most is like if I'd have done it, and that's how he put it. Like, and after he got me literally off the tracks, was your son won't remember you, man. Like, give him a dad to remember. And and ever since then, that's what I've been trying to do. Like, I suck at it, I feel some days, but I've joked. We all joked about. I'm sure every person listening has joked about the 22 a day. Like, I just remember like if like the joking, like if a guy gives you his laptop, he's probably gonna kill himself. Like, watch out.
Yeah.
Or if I kill myself, man, just be sure to format my hard drive for me.
Yeah, delete the hard drive.
Delete
Throw it
my
in the river,
delete my
something like
browser history.
Please do
Yeah,
your
like,
browsing history.
no, man, there's private browsers. There's no browser history.
Real talk.
But there's, like, we all joked about that. Like, and I mean, Matt Best, he made a video. I don't know if I can say names or anything like that on here, but he made a video about it. He goes, if I die in combat, you take my hard drive to the top of the tallest volcano and you chuck it in. And
Yep, I've seen that shit. Yep.
and like, that's it. Like, it's hard. And like,
I think the reason, though, for that, honestly, is the simple fact is that us as service members, we're all guilty of thinking this at least one point, whether you're talking about with your family joining, or your first step in a recruiting office, whatever branch you choose. You always think you're Captain America or G.I. Joe. That's not going to be me. I'm not going to let that happen. And then when it really happens, you don't really know what to do at that point.
Well, and you talk about the joking with it. I mean, it's the dark, fucked up sense of humor that we have to have. It was like I was talking about earlier with the, with doing body recoveries in the Coast Guard. The first one you cry, the second one you're serious and everything, and by the third one you're making jokes. I mean, Station Golden Gate does more body recoveries than any other station in the Coast Guard. Of course, it's right underneath Golden Gate Bridge, which is like a suicide tourist spot. But there was a couple years ago where there was a situation, they pulled a body out, and these guys had done so many body recoveries that it devalues death. It devalues life, to be completely honest. But they took the dead guy and set him up on the back deck of the boat like Weekend at fucking Bernie's, and put a hat on him and stuck a cigarette. They stuck a lit cigarette in his mouth. And
did they smoke the cigarette after? Is the question I have.
No, I can't.
Now you're gonna call an ass.
We're all fucked up, but and
Okay, at least
what ended.
I wasn't really what asking. I'm thinking about asking that question, just for the record. I was not the only one thinking that question.
No.
Was it a Newport?
But if it would have stayed on the boat, nobody would have known, nothing would have happened. But the problem was that somebody took a picture of it, and another boater saw them and took a picture of it, and it got back to the family.
I don't see how the family would be mad. That's the most badass thing imaginable.
Well,
if that happened to me, that's what I would want.
But I mean, that's the kind of, you joke about it because that's the way you deal with it. That's what gets you through the day.
Yeah,
that's the I find myself, I'm that in my group of friends. Like, I'm here with a group of friends. Like, I'm the dark humor. Like the
absolutely.
Dark humor one. Like, and none of them are vets.
Yes.
But they, I had to. We have to. It's a coping mechanism.
Yeah.
And and if you don't, I can't imagine if we didn't have dark humor, what would we be doing?
We should be sad all the time. You got to have that humor to brighten your day.
Yeah. And I think that's probably why I got into Drinking Bros. It's because it was kind of what we were talking. They said what we wanted to think, and I became that person.
If you haven't seen it, Vet TV. They have some
Yes,
pretty funny shit. I love.
Donnie
They're
O'Malley.
hilarious.
Donnie O'Malley is
Okay.
he's what Matt Best wants to be.
Oh yeah, I would love to get that guy on.
Like if I could, like, and I became, and it's like I pride myself, and I always was. I was the person who says what others are thinking.
Yep.
And then now,
Even when it got me in trouble.
yeah, like at work now, like they'll be sitting in the meeting and like somebody will say something, and I'm the one who, this guy who's got he's an engineering degree, he's been in charge for years, and I'm like, that's fucked up and stupid. Like, let's not do it that way and say we didn't. And I get heads turned and like, well, do you have another plan? And I've already found an answer on Amazon, or GSA, I guess would be, but like I do get in trouble, but I at least am prepared to back up my mouth. But there are it's hard to not have a dark sense of humor. Like during my divorce, like if I had a short commute, I think it would have been worse. Like that was the darkest time of my life, on top of Iraq and Afghanistan deployments and the hell, like just everything else. I was in basic training for 9/11, so I'm relatively, now I guess I'm mid-aged, but like all the other things, like the divorce was like the worst for me. And it was like it was brought on over a couple of years. But looking back, like I just realized tonight, like my son wasn't even 3 years old. Or he was 3.5. Like my first memory is around 4-ish. Like he would have never remembered me if I hadn't gone through with it that night. Yep. And hopefully some listeners, like someone listening to this puts that into their perspective, because that is terrifying to me, to think that my son would never even remember me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you bring it up, actually, because there's a listener that's on my friends list on Facebook privately messaged me while we're actually on the air, and he wants to remain anonymous. He's a civilian, has never served, has a question, and the question is, I'm going to read it real quick. What's something that as us, as you know, the four of us here are, you know, veterans, or well, Cutter, you're still in. What's something that we can do as civilians to kind of help prevent, you know, veteran suicide, since this is Suicide Prevention Month? What's something that we can do to stop it, or at least you know, attempt to stop it?
Pay my bar tab.
Yeah.
If we had the ultimate way to, I guess the way the question is being worded is if us as you know, service members, if we could have the ultimate way to help spread the word and help, you know, bring awareness and end it, how would we want it done?
I think getting in these Facebook groups where they reach out to people, that's the start. Getting with Mission Zero, any community thing that you can get involved with, especially in your community, because starting local is the best way to go about it. But get with these groups that have events or help contact people, even just reaching out to your friends that you know have served and just checking on them. Like, all of it helps. Anything that you can think to do will help. Like, just anything at all. Reaching out to these groups, calling people, talking to people, everything helps.
And for me, it's not even just veterans. Help kill the stigma that everyone. It's bad. Like, just help.
Well, I think the way the question was worded, because we're a veteran community here, and because I think that the 22 a day was brought up, and that's when the question was sent to me, was during that time span. So I have a feeling that's what the question was more related to. For the veteran community, what's something that a civilian could do to help the veteran community out and help, I guess, you know, stop it, you know, put an end to it.
That's a tough, like what's been said already, and I mean, I can't think of like the perfect or a great answer for that, because it is hard. I mean, like I joked and said, pay my bar tab, because that would be great, but it's but like like I don't want to say like, Phil, thanks for my service. Like no, like it's like what's already been said. Like just participate. Like don't
Well, I
negate.
understand. I think I understand though where this individual's coming from. It's because we were all civilians at one point, and we don't really know how to kind of at the time we didn't really know how to to reach out to that service member like we do now. How we're no more of a uptight community. We can kind of talk to each other on a different level. You know what I'm saying?
Here's the thing on that. If you volunteer, I know there's several groups that do like a volunteer. I was a part of a thing for a little bit that the Coast Guard was trying to do that was like a text message advocate thing. You get an anonymous text message, and it was somebody else on the Coast Guard to talk to if you were going through shit. But volunteering for stuff like that is great, but you're not gonna know. You're not gonna be able to relate, as a civilian, so much. You've never been in the situation or a similar situation. I would say, support those groups that do that. If there's a way you can do that, but
Support Donnie O'Malley. Support those groups.
Yeah, contact those groups, see what you can to support them. But I'm not getting political, but pay attention to the way you vote. Because there's a lot of stuff, and like I said, I'm not going to get political, but there's a lot of stuff that's being done and not being done in the political realm that that could change things.
Veterans are in between babies and Social Security. We're between the two groups that shit themselves. And it sucks. Like we're in the political realm. I'll get political. General Shinseki was the worst ever secretary for VA. And
that's pretty accurate.
But we're used as leverage. The service members and the veterans are used as leverage between child care or I'll say abortions and Social Security. We're really, as my old first sergeant put it, he goes, we're used as leverage between the two groups of people that shit themselves. And so for a civilian, yeah, exactly. Like support those. Like it doesn't even have to be the large groups. Just like.
This question is coming from me now personally, okay? Because I have family that reach out to me, that are pretty close to me in my heart, that never served, and want to know how to kind of interact with me, for instance, and they want to know how to kind of reach that level and kind of at least, I wouldn't say understand what I've been through and what I've gone through in the military. But I guess how does someone's family get involved without where's that fine line, where you're doing more harm than good at that point. You know what I'm saying?
My mom,
how do you explain that? How do you explain it to like a family member? Hey, you're stepping over this boundary without it sounding like a complete jackass. Because we have that very blunt and dry. This is how it is. Mentality. That's how we think. That's how we train, and that's how our unit would talk to us. And how we talk to our brothers and sisters is, we want to be heard straightforward and know that they know when to kind of push. We're like, hey, I need to back off. But when you have a civilian family member that's trying to reach and go, how do you go about? I guess letting them kind of give them a warning shot across the bow. No pun intended. Saying, hey, you're pushing that limit, without sounding a complete dick.
I would say shut up and listen.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's one thing.
Like there
are also programs like Red, White, and Blue. I think those are some pretty good programs. I don't know if you guys have ever seen about them, but basically they try to bridge the gap between civilians and veterans and get everyone talking, and it tries to break down that wall a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
And for me, I don't know if any of you guys have ever had it like that it's going to sound very unappreciative, but that fake patriotism feel coming off of people, or
Yep.
that like that really hurts and pisses me off more than just somebody who's wanting to just like don't do it in vain. Be sincere with it. Like don't go for the I paid $700 for their meal. Don't get me wrong, I love that. But like I'm sure like someone said they had like that fake patriotism, like that fakeness hurts. So I don't know how to say it without being a dick. Listen, like someone said, just shut up and listen. Like let us get it out. Like understand, like probably 70% is going to be for shock value and the other 30% is real. Like let us get it out. Like as I learned through therapy, listen to hear it but not respond to it at first. Give us time. Like sometimes, like I don't know about you guys, I just want to vent. I just want to just cuss my head off, say every little thing that's irritating me, and I'm done. And then I'm ready for the rebuttal, or then I'm ready for the support. And that's oddly enough the chaplain I went to see. He was mad. He not mad, but he got upset. He goes, "Do not censor yourself on your emotions. Like regardless of who you're talking to, you shouldn't be censoring it. Like the Pope would rather you cuss and be real with him than be fake about it." And that's what I think would be the best advice. Let the veteran or someone like that, if you do reach out, let them just get it out. If they're willing, we said it tonight. It's hard for us to reach out. The stigma. If we're willing to open up, just let us open up completely.
Yeah. Don't be like my dad does. My dad will call me because I'll call my mom and talk to my mom because she'll shut up and listen. But my dad will immediately, as soon as I get off the phone, call me, and he is the world's worst at playing the whole "sicker than thou art" type of game.
Oh wow!
And I'm
shit.
like, Dad, you were an aircraft mechanic for American Airlines. You have never seen the shit I've seen. You've never done the stuff I've done. And I'm not saying like I've been through like ridiculous shit. You guys have been through way worse shit than I have, being combat. But just he will sit there and not let you finish what you're saying and then try to have something to relate. And it's just like it pisses me, and it shouldn't piss me off because he's trying to be a dad and he's trying to be helpful, but he's trying to compare the Empire State Building to a tent. And it feels like he's belittling it, almost. Which he's not trying to, and I need to understand that. But yeah, that if you want to be the one to call people and talk to them, just shut up and listen.
Yeah, that's true. We're almost an hour and 15 minutes. If you guys are ready to wrap up, because I know you're at your friend's house and you're trying to catch those fights.
I'm already 5 drinks in, so I'm good. But no, I understand.
Yeah,
But I definitely have
drink
more
and watch
stories.
those fights as well.
But like to answer one, just to say it one more time, like Girls for Gunslingers, like they're the best on the, like if you're stuck in an airport, they'll come out and they're like, if you're going to be there for a long time, they'll come pick you up, take you out for a drink, and then bring you back to the airport. And all they want to do is talk. They're not there to judge. They're not there for anything. They're mostly veterans or spouses of veterans. Like that's another one to support. Like reach out to those. Like as said, reach out to those subgroups. They know probably more on how to answer it because that's their job. Like well, you guys, like y'all know more about it than I do. But just the small subgroups or even those big Donnie O'Malley, Matt Best groups.
Yeah, you can reach out to us as well.
Yeah, and I mean. There's one group if you want to know what it's like to a civilian or anybody. It's so horrible. It's not really, but the song. If you Google or YouTube search PTSD song, I'm sure none of. I think it's a very hard. It's not hard to find, but it describes it like for a lot of veterans that I know and myself. Like they taught you how to put the uniform on, but they never told you how to take it off. And It's hard. I mean, it's like if you want to see what it's like inside of a veteran's mind for the most part, like that's probably one of the better songs I can recommend because it hurts. Like you don't know what, like I don't know what the guy that was literally standing beside me overseas was going through, but I do know to shut the hell up and let him get it out. But yeah, like I've kept y'all enough tonight, but I have more stories. If y'all want to hear the story of me stabbing myself in the ass, I'll be glad to tell you that.
Yeah, we'll have you on. We'll have you on here in a few weeks, I'm sure, to tell that story. Because I definitely want to hear that because I've already heard a part and I'm cracking up about it. Remember, everyone, reach out to your brothers and sisters you served with. Make sure everyone's okay, and make sure to swing by the Facebook page if you need anything. And that pretty much wraps it up. So everyone have a good night.
Yes, sir.
And just enjoy the fights. All right, see everyone later.
All right.